My name is Rebecca Legon, and today I am joined by four incredible guests, all with very unique and empowering stories. They're going to be talking about their experiences with limb loss through the challenging times to now achieving incredible things. As well as talking to my guests, we want to hear from you guys watching. So do send your questions to the chat group. Before I introduce you to my guests, I will share my story. So I was born with a rare limb difference and I had an amputation at 6 years old. I grew up as a kid in the 80s and a teenager in the 90s when there was really little awareness around disability and difference. And there was no social media, there was no, mainstream Paralympics, there was no people like me on TV. And I really struggled with this and felt different. And it led to many dark thoughts that I dealt with internally. It's taken me over 30 years to find peace with these thoughts. And what really helped me on my self acceptance journey was our incredible community. It was by starting my social media. It was by joining other amputees on events, by seeing and being with other people like me really helped me to embrace my limb difference. And you know what? This is why Limb Loss and Limb Difference Awareness Month is so important. Now, let's meet my guests and hear their stories. Caleb, if you could please introduce yourself and tell everyone your story and how you became an amputee.
Hi, can you hear me, Rebecca?
Yes, I can hear you.
Cool. Awesome. Hello everyone. It's really, really awesome to be here. My name is Caleb Swanepoel. I am an above the knee amputee. I lost my right leg in 2015, so going on 10 years this year. I don't know why I'm smiling while I say that. But yeah, I've been an amputee for 10 years, and my story started when I was really kind of entering my adulthood. My first year of university studies, I was studying acting at the University of Cape Town, South Africa. I'm South African, and I was body surfing with my brothers. We were swimming in the ocean, and was beautiful, beautiful day, perfect conditions for surfing and swimming. And we headed out quite far with wetsuits and fins, and it was in the ocean that I encountered a great white shark and nearly lost my life. Lost my right leg completely above the knee. And the miracle that saved me that day was, well, a number of things. I'm sure we'll get into it. But that's my story. Yeah, so I'm a shark attack survivor, and since then have kind of reconnected with the ocean in wonderful ways. And Yeah, very, very proud to be here today to share my story and to connect with others. And yeah, this month, like you were saying, Rebecca, it's quite special. I think we forget sometimes the journey
Yeah.
we've walked, and to stop and reconsider and just reflect is it's really a privilege. So hello to everyone joining today. I
Yeah.
hope that was enough of an intro.
Yeah, thank you so much, Caleb. That was so lovely. And it must be, quite hard sometimes talking back on those times. So thank you for being so open and honest and sharing that with us. Zainab, if you could please introduce yourself and tell everyone your story.
First of all, I'm very happy to be part of this conversation. And it's already super empowering listening to you, Rebecca, for so far, and Caleb. And I'm very much looking forward to listening to Henry and Kiera. Um, my story, long story short, I would say. So I come from Iraq. A country has been through so much in terms of instability, political issues, war, and so on. It's been a, it's been a quite intense, I would say. So I was born and raised there for a while, and I lost my leg at the age of 7 in 1997 as a result of explosion. But it was not an immediate or direct explosion. It was something that I and my family had no idea it's something explosive. It just looked like a big screw. We thought it's something left over, and that's all. And we used it to fix my bicycle because it had something wrong and it just fitted perfectly in the handlebar. And due to the friction, done with the hammer, so it immediately exploded afterwards. It was me, my dad, and youngest sister. So my dad lost his hand right away, and he had the biggest part of the explosion. Luckily, he survived, but he needed a lot of surgeries to fix his bones and so on, and he lost his hand as well. For me, my leg was badly injured. Nobody can tell if it would have survived anyway, but a cast then was kept for my left leg, and gangrene developed, so an amputation had to be done. So I'm an above knee amputee. My youngest sister also was with us. She lost a bit of her finger. She had also her surgeries for her legs and so on. And yeah, we survived. It's been a journey, as you said, growing up also in our region where there is not really much support for people with disability in terms of financial support, mental support, even educational support. It's not really that available. So it's been a quite interesting journey until now. We're lucky to have social media and things changing. But yeah, that was something that taught me so much.
Wow. Yeah, that must have been really tough. And to go through that with your whole family as well, you would have all been affected in lots of different ways. But thank you, Zainab. Henry, if you could please introduce yourself and share your story.
Absolutely. Hi everyone, I'm Henry Dunn. I'm from the UK. I'd say my amputation is a little bit more recent compared to the other guests on the panel today. So mine amputation was just over 2 years ago, so about 28 months to be precise. I was only 23 years old, and I was on my gap year abroad after studying for my degree, which was actually in sports injuries and rehabilitation. So after lockdown, I decided, me and my partner, to go off travelling, and we travelled for 9 months through Southeast Asia, New Zealand, and we ended up in Australia. And after 5 weeks along the east coast of Australia, I decided to work, and so I wanted to go up to the Northern Territories in Australia and work on a remote cattle station. So I flew up, got a bus down to one of Australia's most remote towns with a very small population of only about 11 people. So very different to the towns where I've been born and bred here in the UK. So very small, very minimalistic. And so my 3 month adventure began whilst working on a cattle station. And it wasn't until the last week my amputation actually happened. So once cattle work had all been completed, mustering, branding, drafting cattle, which took the majority of the time, it was actually on my last week where we were using a hydraulic post rammer, which is a big machine on the back of a tractor weighing about 185 kilograms. And that weight, unfortunately, at the wrong time, came down and crushed my forearm between two pieces of metal. So that was the post and the weight, and my arm was caught directly beneath that. So I lost my arm just below the elbow. So luckily I still have my elbow joint here, and I'm wearing my prosthetic today. And then a big part of my story is the journey of where I was. I was in the middle of nowhere, 500 kilometers south from any medical support. So there's a great story about that. We don't have time today to hear it all, but to get up to safety and get up to the hospital to have that amputation. And so that happened within the 8 hours of getting up there, and woke up the following day with my arm amputated just below the elbow.
Wow. If anyone wants to know more about Henry's story, I did recently interview you, didn't I, from Movao Live, and it's on the Ottobock channel. So anybody, if they want to find out more about you, can watch that online. Thank you, Henry. Kiera, if you could please introduce yourself and tell everyone your story and how you became an amputee.
Hi, first of all, thanks for having me, Rebecca, and lovely to meet the other guests. I feel like I'm the vintage member. So I had my accident about 25 years ago, and I was actually working in Paris running exhibitions, and I was involved in a road traffic accident. Fortunately for me, I was in Paris, and it was actually a policewoman who saved my life, and she reached me within 2 minutes. I was bleeding out of my femoral artery, and if she hadn't been there, if I'd been in England, I probably wouldn't be here. So that's quite sobering thought, isn't it? The French team were absolutely incredible. I think they worked on me for about 14 hours. They operated on me to try and save my arm and my leg. Fortunately, they saved my arm, and I got away fairly scot-free. I still have a permanent break in my collarbone, but other than that, they took really good care of me, put me back together, and shipped me back to England.
Oh, wow. Oh, I'm honestly, guys, I'm always so blown away by how resilient we are as a community and how we can get over such, challenging times. Let's now talk about let's talk about some of the incredible things that we're now doing because of our limb loss. For me, never would I have thought, like, as a teenager in my room with all these insecurities of feeling different, that I would fast forward into my future and be, playing amputee football for England, or being a model, or even hosting this talk with you guys and having this important conversation. Caleb, can you please share your, surfing accomplishments and your newfound relationship with the ocean? Sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you. And thanks everyone for sharing your stories. It's really inspiring.
Mm.
And I get so inspired to hear other people's journeys because it's the same but different, and it's always encouraging to see how everyone else is kind of figuring things out. And my journey with the ocean and surfing and things I've been lucky enough to do have really come through kind of just saying yes to life and having a survivor mindset. And that was one of the reasons why I went back to the sea. A lot of people think I'm quite crazy to go back into the ocean after losing my leg to a great white. But somehow the ocean called me back, and I wasn't even a surfer before I lost my leg. But just through, I suppose, having a gritty mindset and liking challenges, I picked up surfing, and then found out that it was a very small sport that was growing in our country, but that there was a world championships that we could attend and we could qualify and represent our country, which was something I never thought I'd ever do. And so it was really a privilege to be invited and to become part of the surfing community, which is such an awesome community of people. And since then, represented South Africa a couple of times, been to world champs a couple of times, just surfed SA champs now in Durban. And it's for me, it's about the people that I get to meet along the way, and um, you can't do it alone. You got to reach out
Yeah.
and bring that community with you, and that community also just it's beautiful momentum. Like these conversations that we're having now, like you said, when you first lost your leg, Rebecca, this wasn't something that would be happening. And even when I lost my leg, there's no manual that someone hands you and says, okay, like follow this step one, two, three, because it's so unique and so different.
Mm.
And I think, it's in these moments that I think we can really learn a lot from one another, but also for anyone watching, it's such an awesome opportunity to learn. My family and myself, we've learned so much about the world of para, the world of differently abled, the world of disabled. Um, and we were never really exposed to it before, only through circumstance do we have to adapt. So I think this is a really important conversation. And yeah, so that's the ocean for me. And also, I've also realized that we can still be contributors to making a difference, even if we aren't experts. So I'm not a marine biologist, but I've had the opportunity to start doing some conservation work around sharks and awareness and their importance for our oceans. And every second breath we take come from the ocean. So every second breath we take comes from the ocean. And yeah, doing my bit to also hopefully help protect that space. So yeah, that's me wrapping that up.
That's incredible. It's so cool. Thank you so much, Caleb.
It's a pleasure.
Zainab, you do such incredible things. I was just saying to you earlier that I just love seeing all your social media. You're all over the world, going to the most amazing countries. You've also achieved so much. You're a TV presenter, you're a model, you've been on the cover of Vogue. What are the things that you would say make you most proud of your accomplishments that you've achieved because of your limb loss and your journey?
To be honest with you, I think I'm just grateful for the whole journey. I never expected to, like, if you ask me again, just like you mentioned 15 years ago or so, like, how do you vision your life, or how do you see your life 15, 20 years later? I would never dream that big, especially coming from maybe our region, again, like the financial support, educational support, the level of awareness in the region. I wouldn't probably have made me dream big at all, because I had no idea that I'm eligible for it. So the biggest lesson I have ever learned is that literally the limit is the sky. I'm so grateful. I think everything that comes on your way in terms of achievement is how valuable you see yourself and how valuable you see the input that you can add to the world or to the society. The more you believe in that, the greater the things that comes in your way. It's not ego at all, but it's just that each person, each individual in this universe has a worth, and nobody is worthless. So yeah, it's been a great journey, and I think we should never stop dreaming, or we should never stop having goals or things that we think that we deserve, and we should work hard for it.
Wow, I love that. That's so true. So good. Such lovely words, Zainab. Oh, thank you. Henry, I know when we spoke, another familiar subject here. I know when I interviewed you recently that you said that if you could say to the old Henry prior to your amputation, would you be doing your adaptive CrossFit or your keynote presentations? You said to me, you were like, there's no way I would have thought I would have ever done all that, because you would have been petrified. But you're now doing such amazing things like after your amputation. Please do share with everyone like all the cool stuff you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing for me is actually gaining confidence in areas I probably wouldn't have gained confidence if my accident wouldn't have happened. And that main thing being is public speaking. I started doing a lot of public speaking with Dorset Orthopedic in the early days, and the Matt Hampton Foundation, a very close charity that have supported me. But I wouldn't have had those opportunities to probably present in such big rooms full of, over 200 legal professionals, big organisations, schools. And I think the fact that I've built on that and am now going down that avenue for a career kind of side of things would never have happened if I didn't have my amputation. So seeing it in that perspective has really helped me develop and actually accept the amputation. Alongside, again, with my sport, I played rugby before, and I have done since I was very young, passing the rugby ball with my dad when I was 6, 7, and then playing all the way through in my teens and at uni. Such a big part of my life. And then when that was taken away from me, it was almost, I couldn't imagine what life would be like without rugby, because that was all I knew. But then since I came back from Australia, started my rehab, CrossFit, as you know, I've had lots of conversations with you, has been now the new rugby. So the rugby door had closed, but another door opened. And now, because of that, I was able to represent Great Britain at the Adaptive CrossFit Games. I'm looking at, again, progressing for this year's games, which is in Vegas. So that's an exciting goal. But again, I think it's embracing the opportunities as they come. And as Caleb rightly said, you don't get given a manual of how to do this. You have to find your own feet, and you have to be willing to actually reach out to people and want to make that change you want to be. And it is difficult, because at the very beginning, you cannot see anything in front of you in terms of that vision. What is life going to look like? Independence, all of that self-identity. It's really difficult, but things start to fall in place as you embrace it and kind of take that step.
Yeah, so true. We kind of learn and adapt on our journeys, and we grow as people as well, like on every challenge that we overcome. So yeah, so great. And Kiera, you would never have started Limb Power Charity if you hadn't have, lost your leg. And you've done so much to help support amputees and people with limb difference here in the UK. What are all the amazing things that stand out for you that you've achieved since, your limb loss story all those years ago?
I've kind of got two parallel stories, which is my personal journey and then the sort of collective Limb Power journey. So I think for me, the things that have really stood out is I was incredibly lucky. I grew up with a below the knee amputee at school. And so when I had my accident, I was immediately thinking of all the things that I could do rather than focusing on the negative. And actually, my friend died in the accident. So I never went through all those stages of grief. I was immediately grateful. And I think starting your journey with gratitude has a massive impact in your rehab process. So I'm very grateful, and I feel very lucky that I started out my journey with a positive outlook, because I know for some people it's really hard. having been quite sporty, I was always, in fact, I believe when I was still in hospital, I said, I'm going to run the London Marathon. Still haven't quite got there. I've tried, and I was supposed to do it this year, and I'm injured, so I'm not doing it this year either. But for me, it was always about getting back to fitness, getting my health back. I was on a very personal journey to regain my fitness very quickly. The difference from when I first became an amputee is people, Limb Power didn't exist. None of the charities existed. There was only the Limbless Association. And, there was no pathway into activity. If you wanted to do something, you had to go and find it out yourself. And being quite resilient, I did. I went ahead and I did that. But I hit lots of obstacles. I was told that as an above the amputee, I shouldn't run. I was told that there were lots of things that I shouldn't do, and it was very much a focus. It was quite a negative focus, and I just thought, well, I'm just going to ignore that and carry on. I actually found an American physio who taught me to run, and I went on to run up to about 6 miles, and I just can't get past 6 miles. But 6 miles is pretty good. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
As you know, I've climbed Kilimanjaro, walked the Great Wall of China, trekked in Cuba, just completed Machu Picchu. Although that was a struggle, I had lots of issues on that particular challenge. I've cycled from Land's End to John O'Groats, London to Paris, London to Amsterdam. So on a personal journey, I've achieved some incredible things that I would never have done. I was a sprinter. I was not an endurance athlete. I would never have done anything more than 400 meters. So that was a massive mindset change. But what it made me realise is that everybody else was having to go through the same as me. And if I could utilise what I'd learned to support other people, then that would help other people speed up their journeys. And so that kind of became my passion and my mission. And that's kind of why I launched Limb Power. So I was actually reading an article in the Times written by the chief executive of the British Paralympic Association, who said they were fast tracking military amputees for 2012. So I phoned him up and explained that the military population was, I think, 0.05% of the amputee population. And what were they doing for the rest of us? To which he responded nothing and explained that there was no pathway. And then he told me about these incredible organisations called Willpower and CP Sport and British Blind Sport. And I went home and registered Limb Power. And that's kind of how it happened.
And thank you for doing that, because if you hadn't have registered Limb Power, I probably wouldn't have be doing what I'm doing now, because it was Limb Power, it was climbing Kilimanjaro where I met you, and after that, that opened up lots of different doors and opportunities for me to be doing what I'm doing now. So yeah, thank you, Kiera. Oh, it's so great how we've all turned such, challenging times into such opportunity. I guess let's talk a little bit about some of the harder times that we've been through each, or parts of our journey that have led us to where we are now. Caleb, I'd love to talk about this subject with you, because you recently faced your fears and swam with sharks in the Beyond the Bite documentary, which honestly, when I was watching that, I was literally like, I was scared, and I hadn't even experienced what you'd experienced. So how did facing your fears like that help you on your healing journey, would you say?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for supporting the short film. It means a lot. Yeah, I think what's interesting about facing fears for me, I think fears are constant might not be the right word, but I think fears will always be there. Fears are things that essentially drive us to some degree, or this is just my perspective. But I think having bravery to kind of meet fear is kind of where I try focus. Even though sometimes the fear becomes the thing I focus on too much, but focusing on what I can control, and that's I can be brave when I'm facing fears, but fears will always be there. So I think since from 2015 to last year, which was about 9 years, kind of facing a fear, processing something, getting back into the ocean. I don't think for me it was a culmination of now I get back in the water with sharks. For me, the engaging with my trauma and engaging with that challenge on a sort of continuous scale or continuous journey meant that I was ready to get back into the water with sharks. And I was at the right place, and also I had the right team around me. I was very, very lucky that the Wild Trust, which is a non-profit organization here in South Africa, which focuses on protecting our wildlife, sharks being one of them, they gave me the opportunity. So also there was luck involved. It came at the right time, but also I was very lucky that I got this opportunity because I might not have gotten it in this way. And we were able to combine both a healing journey, which was mine, with a powerful message, which was to change perception around what shark attacks are and what sharks mean. So, I think sometimes things just work beautifully and there's a bit of luck. There's also that embracing your fears, not right now, every single day, but on a scale that matures. And I think, just speaking about hard times, I think sometimes as an amputee, as a person, really, you deal with uncertainty a lot of the time. And being honest about uncertainty, I think on social media, we want to send out a positive message, or I do at least, because I think I'm an optimistic person and I think you can continue. But that's also with me also wanting to be honest that I have my challenges as a human being, as a person, and I have my tough days like everyone else. And I think allowing yourself to have those moments as well. I think as amputees, we're so hard on ourselves because everything is an achievement, everything is something to celebrate or something to overcome or to kind of get to. And sometimes we forget that we just need to just be normal, in terms of, you understand what I'm saying. So I think just for new amputees, we don't be too hard on yourself because it's a journey. So that's for anyone else that's going through something out there that's listening today.
Yeah, it's definitely a journey, isn't it? There's lots of stumbles and falls. Don't
Yeah,
expect to
lots of
achieve
swagger.
things. Yeah, exactly. Ups and downs, but that's all the fun of it, I guess. Zainab, I would imagine, well, what you've recently discussed with us as well, that growing up as a kid, a young person over in the Middle East was probably quite similar, but I would imagine tougher than my childhood experience. How did you find growing up with less awareness around disability and difference, and how did that help shape you into the person that you are today?
Oh, where to start?
Wonderful person you are today.
Well, like I think like in so many cultures, especially again, I think the financial support and the government support influence a lot the level of awareness of the community, the society, and the services that's provided. So I believe I witnessed a lot of stigma, growing up as a child. And I still see it in the society, and I still see it in different countries across our regions in particular, because that's where I am always often. Sometimes people would perceive disability as a disease.
Mm,
Okay, so sometimes you get a comment, and comments usually come from a place of kindness, which reflects lack of awareness. So some people might give you prayers like, "Oh, may God help you in your healing journey." And I'm like, "What's wrong with me? I'm
mm,
fine. It's just a prosthesis." And that's something to allow me to walk and function on daily basis. So I'm okay. You don't have to send me healing energy. You can say, "Oh, how strong you are," which is fine. I can take that comment. So growing up, especially as a child, made my parents, of course, more protective. And they were always trying to compensate in a way or another, like by making sure that I'm okay, I don't need anything. So I was always somehow living in a bubble until I got into the university. That's when I started to interact with the bigger world, I would say, and started to realize the reality of our society and how should I be much stronger, much braver, and
mm,
work even harder to achieve the things that are like automatically by default are someone else's rights, you know? But it's just because I'm someone with a disability, that means I should do extra work, to prove to them that I'm eligible for this task or mission.
mm.
Which was, luckily, I was a positive person. I always say this, I had no problem with the society. The society had a problem with me.
Mm.
I'm okay. They're not okay. which is not something bad. Like, it's not something I'm pointing in a negative way, but it's just that we need to do extra work. One of the incidents one time in one of the countries that also came from a good place. I took a taxi and I was very well dressed, all was fine. But like since 2013 December, I decided to uncover my leg, no more cosmesis. And by then, trust me, there was literally no one in the Middle East without a cosmesis. And I was one of the first people. I don't even remember there was someone on social media by then other than me with someone with a disability. So my leg was naked in a way, and I took a taxi in that country, and I was very well dressed. And the taxi driver didn't accept to take my money. He's like, maybe you need it. I understood his point because he was just too kind. But because it's common for them to always connect that people with disability, they might be very poor. They might be always people in need. They might be the homeless ones or like the uneducated ones. You know, it's very common, unfortunately, this stigma. And I'm like, thank you. I understand this comes from kindness. Just trust me. The bag that I'm carrying, it's way more expensive than so many things.
Yeah.
So I can't afford a taxi drive. Or like some people would fight with me, cover your leg. Don't show it because you're asking for sympathy. I'm like, what told you this? Because it's uncommon in our region that people shows their prosthesis or their kind of disability or even their skin if they had something issue with them. So it's been a journey in terms of advocacy, changing mindset, spreading awareness, empowering people, parents with who have disabled kids, or even like cousins and relatives of the ones who might need that kind of support. I could talk for hours about this
Yeah.
topic, but I'm very grateful and super blessed that since I was a child, I had that kind of strength. I had that kind of inner power to stand for myself and not to take it as something offensive, which is very important because fighting if someone says something wrong with you doesn't solve the problem. It's just that we need to elevate the level of awareness. We need to ask for services if it didn't exist in that place. We need to raise a complaint if something wasn't being done right. It's just a matter of that you need to do extra effort in case it was missing and not to neglect it. Otherwise, it would keep on going.
Yeah. Would you say things like, because over here in the UK, obviously it's completely different to when I was a kid. There's obviously so much awareness now. Would you say it's getting a little bit better over there, or
Of
it's
course,
still, yeah.
the more the country is developed, the
Mm,
better it is. And thanks to social media and the internet and the things, all
yeah.
the applications that we have nowadays, many things help a lot in educating people. But you still have the resistant ones that do not believe that it's okay to show your prosthesis. I'm not asking for sympathy or not, I'm not proving myself. It's just something that's more convenient for me. So it is getting better. But again, the more developed is the country, the better it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes the more diverse is the society could be helpful, but not necessary because also now you have people from different backgrounds.
Mm,
So different level of awareness, different cultures. So each one perceives it differently. So it is getting better thanks to social media and governments whom are trying to put the effort in enforcing laws and changing regulations, accessibility code, and so on. But yeah, I believe we still have
lots of work
room for
to do.
development and changing things.
Yeah. Oh wow, you're so strong, Zainab. Honestly, I can't imagine like being in an area like being living in that kind of life how it was when I was a kid with little awareness. I'm pleased it's getting better, but it's quite tough. So you're very strong. Oh, thank you. And Henry, could you please, talk about, I know that from our interview that you suffered quite a bit with PTSD after your accident, and what really helped you was cold water therapy. And I think this might be really interesting for people out there who may be suffering with PTSD on how this therapy really helped you combat the symptoms.
Absolutely. Yeah. So based on my injury, hydraulic post rammer, big weight, loud bang, sights and everything, I was fully aware, fully conscious the whole time through the time it happened all the way up to hospital. So there were a lot of bad thoughts associated in my head, and again the PTSD symptoms of bad dreams, anxiety, flashbacks were definitely very prevalent in the early 6 months really of my amputation and returning back to the UK. Now also remembering I was on a year abroad, which was meant to be the best year of my life, so I've just been traveling all through Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and now I've come back in the dark days of January, February and March with an amputation where my life has completely changed. I knew I had to do something about my mentality, my mindset approach, and in the very beginning, before I could even drive, before I could even get back doing what I used to do, was to actually do cold water therapy, ice baths. Now, I don't live near the sea. I live in the west of England, so my auntie and uncle bought me an ice bath for Christmas, and that was the beginning really of almost the foundation blocks that I needed to build in order to reach the other goals and achievements I've accomplished in the 2 years. Now, the benefits of cold water for me was that it was really easily accessible. So my pool little tub, again, not too expensive, a little £80 or whatever it was in my back garden. It was there. So every time I went out the back door, it was staring at me. So I kind of had to make a decision to go into it. Now, the point of it was when I'm in cold water, there was silence in my mind. So all of the PTSD symptoms, as I've said, the flashbacks, even the visuals, what I heard, it was silence. And so because I had to concentrate on my breathing, slowing my breathing down, my heart rate would go up and I'd have to calm down. So all that trauma, all that kind of bad energy I channeled into getting into that pool. And it started off with 5 seconds to 10 seconds, and then I built up to maybe plus 5 minutes. And that was a brilliant way of just setting small goals that then have built to longer term goals. So it was really the start of the domino effect that I've seen my rehab go through. And it also really helped with the phantom limb pain. Now, obviously there are many people who experience this. Some people don't, some people do. It's very individual. Now, for me, it was really interesting sensations, and again, discomfort. You get itchiness, you kind of get burning feelings, or your limbs in fizzy water. Now, some people experience it at a very high level to the point where they cannot sleep. Now, I've never experienced phantom limb pain at that kind of extreme level. But when I was in cold water, it would almost numb that sensation within the phantom limb pain. So it was a double whammy for the mental health side of things and then the physical pain. And so that just became a habit. And the biggest thing was there's a voice inside your head that tells you not to do something. And for me, that ice bath, if I could override that voice that tells me don't go in there, it's too cold and horrible, then that's going to give me confidence. And I've applied that when I go on stage, when I compete, that voice telling you, oh, this is going to be scary. But then if you can override that voice, it gives you that next level boost of confidence that everybody needs. So a simple task like an ice bath, I've applied the principles I've gained from it in many different areas of my life. And I think if you want to do it, definitely think about it and get yourself an ice bath, because we're getting warmer now in the UK, so I'm going to miss the cold days. But that's why I maximise it in the winter. In those kind of darker months, that's a great time of year to do it.
Yeah, amazing. Kayla, just a quick question from Henry. Do you think like being in the cold water and stuff may have helped you as well?
Yeah, I was gonna ask if I could add to that. I think
Yeah,
any
please
if
do.
I do come to the UK, I'd love to come do an
Yeah.
ice bath with you,
Yeah.
no matter what time of the year it is. I was very lucky that water, obviously played a huge role in my life, getting in terms of my recovery. I think, like Henry was saying, switching off. I think that's the kind of the biggest thing that kind of with the message from my side, what helped him, like kind of numbing the phantom sensation, numbing those thoughts or those visions. Swimming was really kind of that for me. Putting my head down, getting in, saying yes when my body really kind of was saying no, and I was being lazy. Um, so my sports really helped me. But then I love cold water therapy as well. I also do breath work. So those sort of somatic things, very physical things where we actually put our bodies in a state of shock, but very controlled, quite a controlled environment. So our bodies actually build immunity by being in that state of shock, and especially having gone through what Henry's gone through and what I've gone through as well, and I'm sure everyone else on the call can relate, that those things that kind of disconnect you from your monkey mind, sometimes I think are extremely valuable because they remind you that I actually can think in a different way. I can think in this way, but I also can think in this way. So you kind of allow yourself to weigh up where your cognitive kind of compass is. Um, and I think something like ice baths bring it back to center. It's like a reset. It's like getting enough sleep. So yeah, that really helped me. And I do encourage it as well for everyone. And like you can start with a cold shower. You don't even need an ice bath. You could start with a cold shower. In the UK, sure. Well, in winter, it's gnarly there. It's gnarly. We're heading into winter now, and I'm complaining. It's like 15 degrees outside Celsius.
Yeah. I do
Yeah,
try and have ice showers, but I know it never lasts very long.
it's hard. It's discipline, Henry. I take my hat off to you, man.
And that's
Honestly, I take my hat
you've
off to
just
you.
said it there, Caleb. It is that discipline side of things, and it's again getting comfortable, being uncomfortable.
Mm,
Every time you start something new, again, being an amputee, walking out in public, again, the public eye I felt was on me. That was a lot in my head.
mm,
But again, if you put yourself out in those
mm,
positions and get out there, you're going to become more confident and more comfortable being in those uncomfortable situations. And I think
mm,
through life, it's not just about having an amputation, but you need discomfort to build resilience and to grow. You don't if you're going through life like this, where's the adventure and where's the growth? You probably won't see it.
yeah.
So yeah, it's I love it. I love ice baths, and I'll continue to do it. I think forever.
Well, maybe I'll have to try. I'm
Second.
getting a swimming leg this summer actually, so I'll have to start running in the sea
Nice.
with it. I'll test it. I'll make sure I go when it's colder as well and give it a try. So yeah.
For sure.
But Kiera, think talking about this discussion made me kind of think of this next question to ask you. Do you think maybe, obviously we're not talking about ice baths here, but after your accident, you channeled all your energy into starting Limb Power charity. Do you think this starting Limb Power helped you to kind of get through your trauma by putting all your energy into helping others? Oh, I think you're on silent.
I'm on mute. I'm so sorry. Yeah, the answer is probably yes. But before we go on to that, I just wanted to go back to Caleb and Henry, because there is actually evidence that being in water has an impact on your cortisol levels and reduces your cortisol. And when you've got cortisol in the brain, it's really, really hard to remove it. And there is a company in they're in the Caribbean, and they take people with PTSD diving, and they've had our 100% success rate of removing PTSD. So I wanted to put that out there because I think that's
Yeah,
really,
that's
really important.
really, really important. That's incredible.
Yeah. So coming back to your question, sorry for sidetracking. Yes, I think it did. I mean, before I started Limb Power, I actually worked for 2 other limb different charities. And my background is a sort of sales and marketing background, so I had a terrible time going back to work. I was sidelined, and I had to work from home for 3 months because accessibility wise they couldn't get me back into the office because they said they didn't have the right equipment, etc. Things have moved on a lot since then, but actually that was quite a difficult time because I loved my job. I'm a bit of a workaholic, and not being able to get back to my job for me was a really frustrating time. And as a result, when I did get back, it had lost its shine for me. So I was then thinking about what I could do next, and I was asked to become a trustee of the Limbers Association. And from that, it made me realise that I had a lot of skills that I could use in the charity sector to help other people. So I think it gave me a purpose. It gave me a direction, something to focus on. So yes, I think it did help in that respect. But for me, it really became a kind of a calling, and it was very much about utilising my knowledge and my skills, growing on that knowledge, looking at the different gaps that people with limb difference are facing. And actually, Zainab said something for me that's really interesting, and something that as amputees we don't talk about a lot, which is the societal challenges that we face. And that can be things from lack of equipment. If you're going into a gym, and Henry, I'm sure that you've noticed this. Gyms are not designed for people in wheelchairs. They're not designed for disabled people, and society is not designed for people with impairments. And that can have a really negative impact on a lot of people, particularly if you are trying to get back into employment or back into education. And I think it's an area that we probably don't talk about enough. It's not the area that the charity that I run focuses on, but I was previously very much involved in campaigning. I was part of the team that campaigned to get sea legs on the NHS, and I'm really proud of that. That's one of my proudest achievements. I'm I don't know if I'm allowed to say. I'm involved in another campaign going through NHS at the moment. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I just suddenly had it. Oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to publicly.
Yeah,
say
don't say it live, whatever you do.
no. So, but I'm quite passionate about writing letters to MPs and telling them how they should be changing policy to support us. And I think it's really important that those of us that have a voice use our voice to help people that don't feel that they have the same sort of availability or access to people who have the power to change our environment. I think it's really important that if we can, we should be speaking on behalf of the community, which is why I love Limb Loss Limb Difference Awareness Month. And as you know, Rebecca, I'm the person that brought it to the UK after having spoken to the Amputee Coalition of America, because the Show Your Mettle really resonated with me. You know, being proud, not feeling humbled, not worrying about what we look like, not worrying about what other people think, but just being ourselves and being human and being comfortable in our own skin is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So what talking of limb loss and limb difference awareness month, what does it all mean to you personally? We know how you feel of it, Kiera, but how do you guys feel about this amazing month? Does whoever would like to go first?
Okay, I'll go first.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, again, I had no awareness when this month existed. So thanks to the power of the internet and social media, it honestly taught me so much throughout my whole journey as an amputee. I don't think I had correct sources of information growing up. So thanks to the internet, that's when I learned, oh, my cosmesis is pretty much not an essential part of my prosthesis, and I can easily give up on it, and I will be more than fine. I would still function, act perfectly well, and that led to my decision in December 2013 when I took it off completely, and I never thought of bringing it back again. It was not an easy decision by then because I just went to my CPO, took it off, and got back to my family, my friends, everyone around me. It was a major shock for them to understand what happened, why, and is this final. So, Lip Loss Awareness Month helps a lot spread awareness online, which nowadays reaches millions and millions of users from different age of categories, from different interests. No matter where you are, what's your culture, and so on, at least it brings to your mind that, oh, there are different peoples that go through so much challenges and still they're enabled to do so much. And it's not only about what they lost, but the fact that they are still people, humans of interest, a collection of goals, dreams, and they still need to function normally as much as possible and achieve everything they still can achieve. This is their right. So yeah, I appreciate this month a lot. And since the moment I'm aware of its existence, I always look forward for it to see what's gonna be there online.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Zainab. Oh, does any of the other guys want to talk about what it means to you?
I'll say something quickly before Caleb.
Yeah.
Then
Okay.
I know. I just think it again, as Zainab explained, it was a month that I never knew existed pre, my amputation. Same for Mental Health Awareness Week. There's different months, different days, and weeks throughout the year that amplify certain situations, and I think it is an opportunity to amplify your voice and explain, to share people, because then that community will then grow. And again, it's although there's 1 month, I think you can see limb loss, limb difference all the way through the year. Even now in society, especially in the UK, it's becoming a lot more part of society. You look at adverts now on TV. I know on the London Underground there was an advert for a lady with an upper limb difference, and again, but it's kind of subtle little plants that you can see around, that it's just becoming really normal, I think. And I think the more we can kind of spread awareness, yes, there's this month for that, then the better, because it helps people then to have conversations rather than to close conversations off. A lot of the time, people are worried about saying the wrong thing and then will not have a conversation with that individual. Now, we are focusing on limb loss this month, but again, if you see someone who's a wheelchair user, it's the same principle. So how sad is that, to close off a conversation just because you're viewing someone in that way, or you're scared to say the wrong thing? So with these awareness months, it allows people to gain a bit more knowledge and understanding to then have perfectly good conversations, because those conversations could lead to great opportunities, and it'd be a shame to see those not happening because of kind of someone's judgment already. So that's why I believe it's very important.
Just one point to add, and for me, honestly, as an amputee, I look forward to other amputees' content also to learn of, like, oh my God, I can do this. Shit, I need to search it. How can I do that? So we as a community, I think we always like looking for each other to learn and to grow and to just to try to be creative in our own way, you know? So I really learned a lot through other users of like, oh my God, I can do that. Why nobody has told me?
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah.
so true. I do the same. Does everyone do that as well?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I just
Just
love
to add, oh, sorry, Kiera, go for it. I'll go after you.
I was just going to say, I just love the way the community has taken ownership of it, and you see constant posts, and they're all creative and different. I'm not much for social media usage. I'm a bit old, I think, but I just love the creativity and the empowerment that people are giving to each other, and the knowledge that's being shared. It's just incredible.
100%. So good. Caleb.
I think I'll kind of be repeating myself. I think everyone's kind of touched on beautiful points, but I think the highlight for me is just the community itself. For me, I sometimes get caught up in my own world and the things I'm doing, and I kind of forget that I'm part of this collective of superhumans, you know. And we kind of go through the year and we get distracted, and life carries on, and it's good to reconnect, I think, with people that when you kind of pass each other in the street, it's just kind of a nod of understanding. It's less of a conversation, you know. It's more of just a nod from the community, and a nod back to the community of we're still on the journey, and we're still doing this thing which is called life, which I think is, like I said when you first spoke to me about this, Rebecca, was really an opportunity to pause. Like, we try go at the speed of light, and the hardest thing is to slow down. And I think this month is really great in the parts of being able to slow down, and go, well, we're having a human experience here, you know. I'm very lucky. Mine's going quite well. I have my challenges, but it's sort of just like to celebrate, like, hey, we're doing okay, you know.
Yeah.
And like Kiera was saying, there's so many creative ways to share what that represents to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's only normal. It's also to show that, living with limb loss we do have our challenging times, it's not always very easy. And it's nice to see people out there achieving great things, because it kind of empowers us and motivates with us. But it's also nice to hear, when people of their struggles too, because you can be like, oh my God, I really felt like that, or I've been through that, and it makes you feel like you're not the only one, and you're really part of a community. And that's what I really love about it, and our community. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Everybody in it is so great. I love watching all of you. But yeah, I'm just going to check the questions from the chat group. I do have one here for Henry. How has your left arm prosthetic helped improve your life?
Great question. So I'm wearing the Michelangelo myoelectric device. I have two. So I also have a body powered prosthetic as well. So again, one prosthetic doesn't suit all in terms of every task. There is not one prosthetic that I can wear that I can do every task with, hence why there are different different attachments, different movements, and different functions. So I wouldn't wear this one in the gym. I have my other gym arm. So my Instagram and TikTok, I show videos of bench pressing and things like that with my prosthetic. Again, people are very interested by that. Now, again, it's giving independence back. So the main thing for me is knowing what life was like before and then continuing now after, and actually comparing it. So comparing what life was like with two hands versus now with one, or again, when I wear my prosthetic, how I do things slightly differently. So a short answer is that it allows the independence, it allows that independent living, which is what I experienced before. And I think I'm very grateful to able to have access to different types to allow me to continue to do a range of different activities, you know, cooking and cleaning, making the bed, all those types of things, getting back on a bike. You know, I couldn't ride a bike for over a year and a half, and then we managed to sort out the prosthetic and stuff like that. So it's that comparison of pre and post. And yeah, there are definitely pros and cons with prosthetics, again, with heat, sweat, as a lot of lower amputees will relate to as well. Sweat is our biggest really Achilles heel really with prosthetics. I think for me, changing in size, hence why now I've got a ratchet. So again, the work I've done with team at Dorset, it's making sure that the prosthetics we have are going to be very specific to the individual, and actually that they're going to work and be used and be functional for that individual.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we end this call, any tips and tricks from you all for anyone out there newly navigating life with limb loss and limb difference? If any one of you would like to go first. Kiera, I think you'd be good at this.
I think what I would say is if you can, particularly if you're really early on, is keep a diary and record all of the small milestones, because as amputees we're quite unique in that we get something called rehabilitation regression, which is where you can be doing really well, everything's going brilliantly, and then suddenly your prosthetic breaks or it doesn't fit, you need new prosthetic, and it could be a month. If you haven't got a private claim, it could be a month, could be 2 months before you're back back up and running again, and then you're literally starting again, and that can be really difficult, really disheartening, and can affect people's mental health. But if you've got a diary of all the milestones and things you've achieved, if you do hit one of those points and you can go back and look at how far you've come, it really helps reset and give you the motivation and the resilience to move past it and move on. And for me, having not just gone through that myself, but worked with so many people who have gone through that, being able to take stock and go, actually this is a setback, but look at what I've achieved from the day I became an amputee, or if you're born with congenital limb difference, and then being able to reset and say I can do this again, and then go back on that journey, because throughout our lives we are going to have those setbacks constantly, and so having the tools to overcome that and to be able to manage that, I think is really important.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, to add to Kiera's notes there, I think it's also you forget to look back and look at the milestones. I think that what's rehabilitation regression,
Yeah.
is that and you can experience it at any stage. You know, sometimes you aren't, like for me, I can't, sometimes you aren't able to walk for 3 months because you've got to do an operation or you've got to do different things, and then you go like, I'm back to where I started. But I think I'm actually do that, Kiera. I've been neglecting my note taking, so I must continue that. My tip would be really sort of move your body. Choose one exercise or one thing that kind of is difficult, but also you can find some enjoyment from, and hopefully low impact on your limbs. So for me, that was swimming. That was accessible for me. But get going with exercise, because that will, it'll really affect your dopamine, how you're feeling, your confidence, and your strength, and your ability to actually, have a body that can cope and handle things and build your immunity. So mine would be get moving, for anyone out there.
Yeah, I think fitness and sports is very important for both our physical and mental health. It's so good. And there's so many more pathways opening for adaptive sports. So that's absolutely fantastic as well. Did anyone else want to, Zainab or Henry, have anything to
add.
say on that?
Sorry, Zainab. I'll quickly add,
Yeah,
just on the back of
go
Caleb's
ahead.
point.
Yeah.
I won't
Then I'll
repeat
talk after.
Caleb's point because, again, that's what I was going to say. But my point here is also, as a new amputee, is connect, network with amputees. I did that in Australia. I went into Instagram and hashtag amputee. So as amputees, when you're posting content, hashtag amputee, upper limb, lower limb, do it, because you will find people reach out to you and ask, how did you manage at this point? What can you help me with? I did it for people, and now I'm seeing newer amputees coming through that same kind of platform and asking for my advice. It can be very lonely at the beginning when you don't know any other amputees. So also you've got social media, there are social events, charities, and just connect all over the world. It doesn't matter if they're not in your country. The amount of American amputees I've connected with, Australian, they've all come in handy, pardon the pun, to help make decisions and
Sorry.
like that. So I didn't plan that joke, I promise. And you can take snippets then from different people. Even lower limb amputees, I've got amazing opinions and advice from those guys, and then I've taken that. So reach out, network, and just be open to ask many questions to other amputees.
Thank you,
I was
Henry.
just about to say Henry's point, like connect and use the power of the internet. It's such a blessing, honestly. Like growing up without that was quite challenging for me personally to navigate my routes, because even if my mom or my parents were supportive, the close circle was quite supportive and were always there, but you need someone who might be going through the same thing like you, and someone who is positive as well. That's very important to make you to enable you to look to the positive side, understand like what you can do, what you can achieve, to stop you from comparing your life, what was it before and after, because you still can do so much and there will always be a way to do it. So the power of the internet, social media, all kind of platforms, Google, search, I think I have achieved so much personally because of that. So yeah, network, and that will help you a lot. And one point I would say important mentally, that take it step by step. If today you're not feeling that positive, don't enforce it. It's fine. Cry, express. You want to talk to someone, go ahead. You want to express it and write it down, go ahead. You want to sit and chill by yourself for a couple of hours or a few days just to zone out and, let it sink. Do it. Also, it's not always right to spam yourself that, yes, I can do it. It has to be done now or never. I don't think it's that way. Adaptability will come. It will find its way as long as you're giving it the time and building the mindset for it.
Wow. Guys, you've said it all. I can't really say anything else on top of that. You've covered everything. Wow, that's all we've got time for today. So thank you to everyone for watching. Thank you for my amazing guest panel for being so open and honest and talking so much about your experiences and Limb Loss and Limb Difference Awareness Month. And thank you for Ottobock for providing us the space to have this very important conversation during Limb Loss and Limb Difference Awareness Month. Thank you very much, everyone, and ciao for now.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, everyone.
It was
Thanks,
great
everyone.
being
Thank you,
part of this
Rebecca.
conversation.
Thank you.